You're a military man yourself, Rajesh. Give us viewers a sense of the manner in which Kharkiv is being attacked. They're not really going for the jugular. They're not doing what happened in Mosul, where you basically go and pound the whole city out. Describe how you think this operation in Kharkiv is being planned and executed.
Look, Rahul, Russian army has maintained from the very beginning that they will not target the civilian areas. And today, a lot of civilian areas in Kharkiv were targeted. And the explanation which came from the Russian military sources was that Ukrainian army was using these areas, the civilian areas. They were staying in the civilian apartments, in civilian buildings, and that's why those civilian areas had to be targeted. It has not come out so far in any media in the West or here in Ukraine that Kharkiv has been totally occupied by the Russian army now. But what I heard from people whom I am in touch with in Kharkiv is that Russian army has already occupied most of Kharkiv, and there are only few pockets of resistance where some fighting is still going on. I would also like to add a little bit about the students. I'm in touch with students from Kharkiv. They have been calling me the whole day today. What I've been told is there are only 500 to 600 students still left in Kharkiv. And I'm aware of this information which came from Russia that they will be provided a safe passage towards Russia. But most of these students today walked on foot and reached the main train station there and were awaiting to board these trains where there were some difficulties, and I was trying to guide them over there. Rahul.
Okay, thanks Rajesh, and keep up the good work. We'll keep coming back to you for more. I want to show our viewers what's happening in Kharkiv. It's been over 100 hours that the Russian army approached and attacked Kharkiv. They still haven't taken full control, which again is interesting from a military perspective, because they could have gone all guns blazing and established control. They haven't done that. So it seems they're trying to establish a stranglehold and try and choke, intimidate and choke, almost make it inevitable, seem inevitable to the Ukrainians that it's only a matter of time before Russia is able to take control of Kharkiv. On a map of Ukraine, if you were to see, Kharkiv is the city that's closest to the Russian border. It has a very high percentage of Russian speakers, and even culturally it's closest to Russia. And therefore, Russia also wanting to ensure that there isn't much civilian damage, so that people don't turn against the Russian army and the Russian government, but it may be way too late for that.
Attack on a military academy. Police headquarters bombed. School hit by a shell. City council under attack.
Это гаражи. Это гаражи.
Unrelenting shelling and missile attacks through the night and day. Kharkiv is battered, razed and bleeding profusely. Russian invaders moved in for the kill inside Kharkiv on day 7 of the raging war. Back-to-back attacks on a police headquarters and a military academy brought the second largest city, Kharkiv, to its knees. The military academy that was hit by Russian rockets was on fire for over 9 hours. Russian airborne troops landed in Kharkiv today and started immediate offensive on the streets of the city. Kharkiv mayor claimed that at least 21 people were killed and over 110 wounded in the initial hours of Wednesday attacks. As the attacks get more and more intense and bloodied, foreign students are being evacuated from Kharkiv. Kharkiv, Ukraine's second largest city, has seen some of the worst fighting and aerial attacks in past few days, with ferocious Russian missile attack taking out a government building. The heart-stopping images were captured on camera. Ukrainian MP Maria Lonova confirmed to India today that ruthless Russian troops are conducting war crimes like targeting hospitals and killing children.
The hospitals were bombed yesterday, and you know also that the kids were killed, and
Yes.
In the evening, there were a rocket bomb. There were a rocket bomb, so very strategic and very hard. So the Putin started to use forbidden rockets, and that is why it is so important to stop him.
Kharkiv is Ukraine. Kharkiv decided not to be a part of Moscow Federation. Putin expected that Kharkiv will become one more People's Republic as the fake republics of so-called LNR and DNR in Donbass. But Kharkiv withstands Moscow aggression. Therefore, this is kind of revenge for it.
On Tuesday, Russian attacks on Kharkiv had killed 21-year-old Indian student Naveen Shekharappa. As the sun sets on Kharkiv, will it be the first major Ukrainian city to fall? Bureau Report, India Today.
I want to go across live and exclusive to Gaurav Sawant. He's the only network reporter who is in Kyiv. All other networks now completely out of Kyiv. The good thing is Gaurav is safe and he's well. So he is reporting from Kyiv, from the suburbs. He's safe and he's well and he's live at this time. Gaurav, great to see you, and I hope. How's the Josh first, Gaurav?
Very, very high, Rahul. Thank you very much. The Josh is high. We went into the heart of Kyiv this afternoon. We drove to Kryshatika, which is the city center, the presidential palace, the parliament. We visited all these areas, reported from there, and now we are back safe on the outskirts of Kyiv, Rahul.
So what's this attack that seems to be coming towards Kyiv but didn't arrive? You know, that whole 64-kilometer long convoy which was headed towards Kyiv, one would have imagined that the Russian army is announcing its intention to some effect. So they've come in with reinforcements. Those reinforcements haven't been inducted into the battlefield. What do you think is going on and why?
There are two things we are being told, Rahul, and today we interacted with officials on ground, including those who are engaged in trench warfare and supervision at a tactical level. And their impression is the Russians are also assessing the situation before mounting an attack and figuring out which is the first flank to open while they target Kyiv. Yes, they say there will be missile attacks, whether those are the cruise missiles or ballistic missiles that come in and target vital assets and points in Kyiv. Some of them happened. They targeted a fuel dump today, missed the target according to officials here in Ukraine. They've also targeted successfully an ammunition dump late yesterday. So they are working to a plan. They want to flatten Kharkiv out, and that is almost like punishment. We heard that member of parliament also say that Russia had expected Kharkiv, with its majority Russian-speaking population, with families on the other side of the border, would perhaps become another republic like Donetsk and Luhansk, but that clearly did not happen. Fierce resistance mounted by the people of Kharkiv, that for 7 days Russia hasn't been able to capture it. That is why they're flattening out the city, the second largest city of Ukraine. And once they do that, once they've got east sorted out, whether it's the Donbass region or Kharkiv, then they move towards the west so that nobody attacks them from behind. And that is why they're destroying pockets of resistance. Whereas in Kyiv, Rahul, and today we traveled extensively across Kyiv, there are multiple pockets of resistance that are being set up to draw the Russian army in and then fight with them, divide them into multiple sectors and then sort them out. At least that is the plan on ground. Whether it's successful or not, we do not know. The checkpoint that we were reporting from just about an hour ago, Rahul, that location had not just small arms, but it also had ATGMs, the anti-tank guided missiles and surface-to-air missiles located there, because that is one of the key routes to enter Kyiv. And there are multiple such access where, as of now, they have their weapons. How long will they be able to hold on with those weapons without replenishments is the biggest challenge that Ukrainians are facing as they face off with a very, very powerful Russia, Rahul.
Okay, I want to go across to Professor Alexei Haran, Professor of Political Science at the National University of Kyiv, Research Director at the Democratic Initiatives Foundation. Mr. Haran, welcome. Can you give our viewers a sense of how you think the government in Ukraine is holding up? And from a Ukrainian perspective, what kind of battle plans do you think the Ukrainian army can possibly have, given the volume and the lethality of the force that's coming their way?
Well, first of all, I would like to thank your correspondent who is in Kyiv right now, and his description is correct. However, I would like to tell you that at this point there are no, Kharkiv is not occupied. I've just, listening for you, I've called to double check to my friends in Kharkiv. There are no Russian tanks in the city. They are trying to infiltrate, that's right, but Kharkiv remains in Ukrainian hands. Regarding Kyiv, okay, listen, I have already told it, don't believe any word of Russian propaganda, because during the first day of attack, what we heard from Indian TV, unfortunately, that invasion almost complete, Kyiv is encircled, and so on and so forth. Now is 7th day of our defense. Kyiv is not encircled, invasion is not complete. As of now, Russia managed to seize only one regional center in Ukraine, which is in the south, after first battle. Only one. All in every other place, Ukrainians are resisting. And basically, on the ground, Russia is losing. Russia is having such large losses that the only way to conquer Kyiv is totally bomb and shell the city and to destroy the city. That's the only way for them, because Ukrainian forces with territorial defense, with our volunteers, are resisting so with such a high patriotic move. 80,000 Ukrainians came from Europe, so they're returning from Europe to defending the country. You may see the videos of Ukrainian men who are helping their families to evacuate, and then they are coming from the border back to Ukraine to take arms. So the level of patriotism is extremely high. So that's why I think Putin will continue to have his war crimes. And definitely we in Ukraine, we understand that Prime Minister Modi is doing his best to save Indians. But what about stopping the war in general? Because what Putin is doing to Russian-speaking Kharkiv, is it liberation, as he proclaims, or is it a genocide against all Ukrainians, including Russian speakers? Please be careful with the maps which you are showing. I'm watching you online. I managed to do it. So on the map, you see Russian tanks in the center of Ukraine. This is simply not correct. So while using, please, you have Ukrainian official sources, you have brave correspondents on the ground. They will tell you the situation. Don't believe any word from the Russian propaganda. We applied to the Red Cross to help us evacuate our citizens from cities in the east and south. There's no move. So Putin is actually refusing to help us create safe havens and to evacuate civilians who are under attack. So again, let me urge India. India is the largest democracy in the world. Please take care, not only about Indian students. Make all you can do to stop the war. You know, last round of negotiations, actually, Russia said, okay, we are negotiating, but we are not going to stop offensive. And they, during negotiations, they were shelling Kyiv. I'm in Kyiv. I'm at the north of Kyiv. It's 20 miles from the front line. We are shelled. So Russia is very, very, very cynical. Please help us to stop
No,
the
and I
war.
must tell you and
Please
anyone else
ceasefire.
who's watching that while of course the Indian students are in our thoughts, as much concern goes out to the Ukrainian nationals and the country and the people of Ukraine, because it's not just the Indian students, it's about bringing an end to this war, bringing an end to this madness and not allowing this travesty and this violence to go on. Colin Bowman joins me, distinguished senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute. President Biden had his big State of the Union address this morning. A lot of the focus, at least initially, was on the war in Ukraine. From an American perspective, ma'am, can you give us a sense of how the United States is currently viewing this battle between the Ukrainian army and the Russian army?
I think Americans in general, as the president spoke last night, are very impressed by the Ukrainian resistance to date. President Biden last night said that President Putin has no idea what is coming. And so the rolling sanctions, I think, have great support in the United States. There's no question about that. And I think the president was aware of that and rallied the country behind what he's doing in Ukraine last night.
And when it comes to the question of what more is coming, can you give us a sense of, apart from the $350 million right away and the $1 billion in total that America has spoken about, what else is in the works in Washington, D.C. to try and aid this Ukrainian war effort?
Well, I think there are a number of things that the administration is holding in reserve at this particular point. And as I said, they're rolling them out in a way that they think is going to be effective. And again, I think the administration is going to be making those decisions day by day going forward. But it's clear that they are trying to use whatever means at their disposal to respond to Russian resistance, to the Russian attack.
Okay, thank you very much for joining us, ma'am. I'm going to slip into a very quick break. We'll have a lot more for you when we come back as part of this live and continuing coverage of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. We're back on the other side of these messages. Stay with us.